wonderful to see people get engaged in, elections and voting and whatnot, and that's really a big part of the mission of Vox is to, get information out. So thanks for heeding our call and our newspaper ads and whatnot. This is our 11th or 12th candidate event, I think now, and we've been very blessed. We've had good crowds that have come. They've asked intelligent questions, and we're very respectful, and I imagine it's going to be the same today. And we do have a few ground rules. Well, let me set up the whole thing. Candidates, we only have two that came tonight. Dan Novak, who's running as an independent for commissioner seat, and Chris Harris, who is running as independent for mayor. And we invited all the candidates. We received RSVPs from two of them, Joe Burns and Rachel Endler. They could not make it tonight. They had previous engagements. All the candidates were sent a Vox candidate questionnaire, which has been a tradition of ours for, I don't know, almost 10 years now. And we received two back, and one was from Dan Novak, and the other one was from Chris Harris. We have those posted on the Vox website. I've also put them on Facebook. If you're really interested, it's a wonderful, comprehensive questionnaire. It's been developed by different board members of Vox over the years, and it would answer they answer a lot of questions you might not have initially thought of, but they are there. It's been built over time. So anyway, so we will proceed with the two candidates that we have. We were holding out for any last-minute drop-ins, but it didn't happen. So what will take place tonight is going to be a little more informal, obviously, and we might get more questions asked because there won't be so many people to answer them. The last two municipal forums, we had 7 commissioner candidates for the commissioner event, and that took a long time. We didn't get that many questions, so hopefully we'll get a lot today. Okay, each of the candidates here will speak for 3 minutes and make a pitch of what they're all about, and then we'll move into the question asking phase. And they'll have up to 2 minutes to answer questions. You're providing the questions. We have some that are brought in already, and then hopefully you will be adding questions as you determine from listening to them as they speak. And then after everything is over, we'll allow them to make a closing statement. They'll have 3 minutes again if they need to use it. I think, am I covering it? It's kind of informal. Am I covering everything here? I want to make sure that...
Steve, did you also put the questions on the Forest Park Review site?
I put the questions, but not the responses from the candidates. We're up through 18 so far, and the last 6 will go up this week.
And the link, I believe, was up there today. I believe it's still at my column. The 2 interviews or conversations with these 2 candidates, the independent candidates, we did a sit-down casual interview. Those 2 interviews are about 30-35 minutes each. And that's in my column. There's a link right at the top. And then I believe there were some technology things going on at the review, of course, yesterday and last night. But I think everything's settled. And there's also a link to Vox's website where you can see the answers the candidates have done. And if they can do it, they're probably going to also, the review will link their questions to there. So if you go online and read the paper, that's where you're going to get your linkages and extra information.
Correct. Yes, even though Dan and Chris are not Vox members, they really saw that what Vox was offering as an advantage to get their message out. So we really appreciate that you took the time to do that. So,
I'm sorry, but this lady said she doesn't know, so we forgot to...
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, thank you. My name is Stephen Backman, and I'm a board member of Vox. And Gloria Backman, who happens to be my wife, she's another board member. And Sharon Daly is another board member. We kind of share the responsibility, not hung up on titles. So, sorry, I didn't do a better job of that. At least I got their names up there. So.
I have one question.
Yes.
Although Byrne and Engler had previous commitments, did they not return the questionnaires?
No, they did not. We only received the 2 questionnaires from these gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, I think without any further ado, I'm going to suggest that we get started. Chris, I'm going to ask you to go first. And you may stay at the podium if you'd like, or you can, well, I think the podium.
Check. Hello, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Chris Harris. I've been on the council now for 4 years, serving as a commissioner, covering public property as the department that I'm in charge of. A little backstory about me, to get to know me a little better. I work in the field of media and marketing. I have a small firm where I have arrangements with other large corporations and provide services for companies that don't have communications departments or marketing departments. And that came to be because in 2008, like a lot of people, I was laid off and found myself searching for a job, and there were no jobs out there in 2008. I don't think anyone remembers, but I had some contacts and started contracting with a few places. That turned into a lot of work, and all of a sudden I was incorporated and had some people contracting for me. So that's been fruitful over the last few years especially. Now I get asked a lot why I'm running for mayor, and after being on the council for 4 years, I can tell you with great certainty that Forest Park has become stagnant. Mayor Calderon's campaign promises this time around are the same exact promises they were 4 years ago. I find it very frustrating that ideas come to Village Hall and they literally stop at the door. He doesn't listen to modern solutions at all. It's become a passion of mine to be the what I would call the voice of reason, to actually bring solutions up, at least have them discussed, even if they get shot down. I just think in the 20 years, he had some good years at the beginning, and his fire is just gone at this point, and it's time for us to thank Tony and move on and think on that solution. I have the enthusiasm and fire. Like I said, I'm 4 years on the council. I've tried to do things that engage the community. I've held town halls. I've held online town halls through Go Meeting. I've held online town halls through Facebook. I've held open participatory budget meetings trying to get the community involved, and it's always been met with great success. The leaders of Village Hall currently don't seem to enjoy or embrace public input, and yes, that would be an important part of the community if I was elected mayor. Wrap it up, because I think the question and answer is much more important than me blabbing on about myself. So I would appreciate your consideration if you'd like an independent voice, not tied to the proviso machine. It's really looking out for Forest Park. Like I said, I have that enthusiasm. I'd love to serve you guys as mayor. And again, let's get the questions going, and I can't wait to answer some. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. How are you guys doing tonight? Thank you all for coming out. I'm Novak, a lifelong resident of Forest Park, and still with the value of community service. I'm married to my good wife Samantha, who's in the pink back there. It'll be 10 years in May. Thank you, Sam, for everything. We have 3 young, beautiful children that attend School District 91 schools here in Forest Park. Story Hannah, who is 7, Nolan David, who is 5, and Cooper Daniel, who will be 4 this Saturday. I'm the son of David and Carol Novak. David's in the back there. We spent many days in this room and in this building here. My father was the director of the Park District of Forest Park and served this community in this building for over 35 years. We laugh every time we come back up here because his office is now currently the men's room. Back there with the new redevelopment. My mother, Miss Carol, was here actually before my dad. She's the aerobics and dance teacher, early childhood tap, jazz, and ballet. And again, we spent countless nights tucked away in these coves as aerobics was a huge hit in the early 80s, and the leg warmers were all over thank you to my parents. I couldn't be here without you. I'm the brother of Nick Novak. He's currently the president of Forest Park Little League. He's married to Jen Gales Novak. She comes from a family that was involved in the Forest Park Police Department for years. They have 3 beautiful kids as well, Nick, Matt, and Katie, and I'm proud to be their uncle as well. My family's always been involved and dedicated to this community. I wish to take my place in history, and again, take my role as being a leader and role model for the village that raised me. I've chosen to run the office to basically give back to the village that gave me so much. My professional success, combined with my deep personal ties to Forest Park, will allow me the opportunity to produce, provide, and positively impact this village. I'm currently the superintendent of special facilities for the Reed Park District. Again, I was born in the Park and Recreation field, and I continue to do that today. I manage the administrative planning, organization, direction, supervision of the facilities operated by the Reed Park District. These include 2 outdoor aquatic facilities, similar to what's out the window here. Cosley Zoo, which is a 5-acre zoo. Fitness centers, a DuPage County Historical Museum, and we also produce 10 large-scale community special events that give back to the community every day. In addition to my daily responsibilities, I've spent the last 6 years leading and coordinating the master and strategic plan. So I have a lot of municipal government experience that I think will be valuable and allow me to produce, provide, and positively impact Forest Park. My values of integrity, commitment, service, dependability, kindness, and willing to be approachable and adaptable will guide me in my role as village commissioner. I wish to engage and satisfy you and look forward to dialogue tonight and vote for Novak on April 7th.
Thank you, gentlemen. Well, let's quickly get to our question and answer session here. If you are writing up a question and you have it ready, hold up your hand and these ladies here will come and get it from you. I think we can go ahead and proceed. I'll get the first batch from Sharon. Yeah. Okay, I should say, what seems to happen is we might get 3 people with the same question. So I'll try to, summarize them or whatever the best I can. So if I read a question that's not exactly written the way you have it, it's probably a compilation of several.
There's 2 on the outline.
2 on the outline?
And 2 on the video.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, the first question. How will you encourage and promote open discussion on the dais? I'm going to let you start, Chris, and then Dan follow.
Can you say that again?
How will you encourage and promote open discussion on the dais during the council meeting?
I'm guessing that's in reference to the fact that people are somewhat stifled now. I think it's a very important part of council meetings is the discussion that should be happening. Dissenting opinions to me is a very important thing. And from the mayor's chair, you kind of guide the council meeting. And we've seen in the past that people are cut off and maybe discussions are stopped a little prematurely. I absolutely respect everyone's opinion and think those are voices that need to be heard from any of the batch of people that are running if they get elected.
Okay. Before you answer, Dan, I do want to point out that Chris is serving on the council already. Dan is not, so he's not going to have some of the same insights that Chris might have. So, if you want to go ahead and answer that question.
As your independent candidate, that's a big part of my platform, is the openness and willing to be your voice. Respect is key. Again, public service, we're here to serve you, so your voice is more important. Again, as a commission, we have the legislative authority. However, you are the people we are serving, and again, we want to make a difference for you. Open discussion is key, respect is key, and again, just with my values and my beliefs, I am approachable, I'm adaptable, understanding, and I wish to engage that conversation with all our constituents. And again, do our best to represent and serve what you want and what this village wants.
Okay. My next question is, it's an Altenheim question, and there's two of them. They're very similar. One of them's a little longer format, so I'm going to use that one. This person says, my taxes have been paying for the Altenheim property for over 10 years. Except for one town hall meeting, there has never been any residential input as to how best to use that last piece of open land in Forest Park. How will each of you correct this situation? You can go first, Dan.
Altenheim, I think the questionnaire is referred to as the ground jewel. It's the last real true piece of green space Forest Park truly has. As a park and rec professional, I'm very passionate about green space. But again, there has been no plan in regards to owning and paying for the land so much. Chris can probably speak a little more in detail on that.
So is that the same as the Grove? I've seen this discussed, and I didn't know it's where Rib
The
Fest is and
the Grove is the property
concerts.
that is the condos that are adjacent to the Altenheim
Well,
property.
they would call the Grove Park as well, which is the front part on Madison. Sometimes it's called the Grove. We also own it all the way back and around, where the Grove condos and townhouses are. Across from that is also the Altenheim property that we own. There's almost 11 acres that surround there. There's a couple of dilapidated buildings that are also part of that we own.
Okay.
So that is the green space, but what do we do with that green space? Dialogue needs to take place. I'm a true believer in open forums and engaging the residents. Another part of my platform. What do you guys want? What do you want to see in it? I believe green space can be preserved. It can be passive. It also can be revenue producing green space. Community civic events, community special events that give back to non-for-profits, produce that community spirit. And again, it all has positive, it can be the crown jewel, but again, it has been sitting vacant for some years and is programmed here or there. But with a plan, and again, asking people what they want and how they like to use that land, we can have a lot of fun there.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dan. All right, Chris, I'll kick this next question over to you first.
I'll answer the question.
No question for you.
We're never going to live that one. I'll just add to it, because I would echo some of what Dan said. I think he hit the nail on the head about getting discussion started. That town hall, and it was in 2012, was the first public meeting we held on that. Very proud that I was the person that spurred that on. I hate to be an I person, but it was a really an uphill battle and a fight to get that public meeting to happen. And there needs to be a dialogue immediately. And I've mentioned this. I've mentioned this before. We need to get a panel together to start having discussions. Residents can come forward. We'll ask for volunteers, and I'd like the discussions to start, if I win, as early as late March, and be meeting on at least a bi-monthly schedule and get something together. I think early 2016 is doable if we start asking for public input now. There was the stall after the public. The outcome of the town hall meeting, which was fantastic. There was a lot of ideas thrown around. Was that there was going to be a survey. We got the mayor to agree that there was going to be a survey, and there was a lot of stalling. It was very frustrating until it got rolled into the comprehensive plan. So we finally had that survey done last year. And the outcome was that the residents wanted to remain green space. Now, we know that, to me, that's a done deal. There's been a couple surveys. There was actually a survey by this group how many years ago was that?
Oh gosh, maybe 07.
07?
Yeah.
They'd also said green space is what people wanted to see there. And now we just have to figure out what is the right and productive green space for there, in my estimation. I think there's been a holding out on it. To me, is I think the real estate market tanked. So the village wasn't going to, the village paid $3.6 million for it. We paid roughly $400,000 a year on it currently. And I think they were holding out to try and sell it again, because you're not going to get anything near that right now. The mayor said he wanted to keep it green space, but he almost sold it in 2005 for the YMCA, somewhere around there, which would have covered a lot of the grounds begin with. So I think the public has spoken in my eyes. Let's get those public meetings started and let's get a plan in place by about this time next year.
Okay.
Probably not late April and not late March to start talks about the elephant.
I think I said May.
We said March.
All right, well, let's start tonight.
Just saying.
I will take a minute and pat ourselves on the back. Yes, we did the first comprehensive residential survey for the Altenheim property leading up to the sale of the property to YMCA. So it was about 05. And unfortunately, it never, it was news to people in the community. It never really got picked up by Village Hall and let it go. Okay, the next question, start with you. I'll give you this one.
But Dan and I decided that since it's laborious to pass this mic back and forth, we'll answer the last and then we'll take the first. Is that okay with you? You never object.
Look at their problem solvers
We're
right
all
away.
together.
Time saving problem solving. Okay, would you relax FOIA requirements on simple day-to-day documents? Is everybody familiar with FOIA? Okay, Freedom of Information Act, and many simple things, you know, almost everything has to be FOIA from Village Hall, but that, there's a time, you request the document by filling out a form or an online request, and then they have X amount of days to fulfill your request, and the request is analyzed to see if they can fulfill it completely or if it has to be adulterated in some way. So a lot of simple day-to-day documents in communities around us are not covered by FOIA now. They just don't want the hassle. So anyway.
The standards are set by the state of what's FOIA-able. The village can relax and make it easier to have access to information. I don't see any issue with that happening at all. There should never be an argument. I recall a conversation with someone that FOIA'd some things that had a lot of resistance at Village Hall. These are public documents. We should give people access to them as easily as possible.
FOIA is transparency and accountability for the elected officials and or the government employees. I worked 15 years for the Wheaton Park District in that governmental agency. I had a FOIA request that was just picked up today on me, a personal request for all my text messages, cell phone, emails, so on and so forth. So FOIA is transparency and accountability. So again, I am a true believer that again, if you're working for a governmental agency, you need to be transparent and accountable.
Would you be willing to look into having a public forum on the pros and cons of our commission form of government? This question is for both of you.
Absolutely, because the commission form of government is very unique, especially here in Forest Park. Again, Chris can maybe go into a little detail about more of the exact definition of the commission form of government. But basically, we have 4 elected commissioners that oversee 4 departments. Again, with the commission form of government in our current stated today, we also have a village administrator that handles the day-to-day operations of those departments. So the commission form of government years ago, if I was the streets and public works, I oversaw the streets and public works department. In today's day of age, we have the village administrator running it like a professional business as well as a government. And again, with the commissioners, we are the legislative authority, not so much the day-to-day operations and the day-to-day decisions of what takes place on a day-to-day 9-to-5 job at Village Hall.
Was the question about discussions about the minutia of it or changing it?
I'll read it again. How do you describe? Oh, I put it down. Okay. Would you be? You can tell we're professionals, ardent professionals here. Would you be willing to look into having a public forum on the pros and cons of our commission form of government?
Sure, it's a discussion. We have a tweaked form of a commission form of government right now, I guess is the best way to put it. It's not a commission form in the true sense because we, by ordinance, added a village administrator and added those duties, which isn't really part of a commission form of government. And as Dan correctly stated, he runs the day-to-day. He's almost like an operations manager slash village administrator slash office manager. And his duties are somewhat broad. The commissioners still, through legal authority, have the right to run their departments. Some do, some don't, some are more involved. I think the discussion's worth having. I think if it's run, I know it gets, there's not many commission forms of government in metropolitan Chicago. I think there's 2 or 3. So we do get, poked at, it's a little bit different. If it's run properly, and it's actually 5 commissions, the mayor's just another commissioner. He's the commissioner of public affairs. And all he really does is he's supposed to run the meetings and control the agenda and his department as well. And we have seen that morphed a little bit into a mayor's strong commission form of government with the current mayor. He's kind of usurped some of the authority that legally, technically might not be his. But I think it's a discussion to have. I know it goes back and forth, the pros and cons of it, and it seems like some people think there are quite a few cons, so why not talk about it?
Okay. Since you have the mic. Now, the next 3 questions all have to do with veterans and disability issues, but one of these does have a lead-off question just for Chris, so I'm going to do that and then slip into the other questions. What is your plan to revitalize Forest Park?
What we've never done is have an actual Office of Economic Development. We've had loose nods and associations, I guess, and we have someone in Forest Park who happens to be a voice for Forest Park, I guess, in the economic world. But what we haven't had is an actual office to attract businesses. We're getting killed on this compared to Berwyn. Berwyn, our neighbor to the east there, is aggressively pursuing businesses, aggressively pursuing Forest Park business. Go ask some of the business owners in town. The mayor himself comes and talks to them about moving to Berwyn, offer some tax breaks and incentives. I think we can do that. I would definitely be aggressive in that sense as well. And then have an incentive-based Office of Economic Development where there were incentive rewards for businesses, the people who brought businesses here.
All right, that was for Chris. All right, I'm going to just really read all 3 of these because they're very similar, but I don't want a chance summarizing them. This is for everyone. Have you any vision to look after disabled veterans in the disabled community? What is your plan to improve the quality of life of disabled veterans and pensions with disabilities? Pensions, and I think that's what it says. And can you help with property tax breaks for veterans and people with disabilities?
Unfortunately, no, we can't help with the property tax breaks. That's not our authority outside of the village portion of the property tax, which I have talked about freezing. But in general, and based on just a veteran getting a different special break, that's not under our authority. As far as looking out for veterans, the question happens to be one of the passions of mine in fundraising and awareness for wounded veterans. I think it's important that, especially with these, the last wars we've seen in modern times, we have a lot of young people coming back disabled that still have a long life to live. And there's a great program that I think Forest Park should be a part of, which is taking foreclosed properties and the villages or cities step in and becomes a partner in getting those homes up and available for wounded veterans and provides a partnership and breaks to get them in those homes and make sure they're outfitted properly for them.
Yeah, with the veterans, they served our country. We have to give back. The service, you know, the respect is there. Anything we can do to help engage that dialogue, and again, be a community spirit that honors them and treats them with everything they deserved and earned for serving our country. I have experience serving more so children with special needs, and again, it's truly a passion, and again, making a difference in the lives of others is something I truly believe in, and again, giving back and making a difference in those veterans' lives who did fought so hard and did so much for our community and our country is key.
Can I ask a question
Sure.
on that issue? Has our community center ever offered services, do you know, over, say, we had 20 years with Iraq? I just don't know if we do offer services or there's ever been anything there for vets.
Specifically?
Specifically, I guess.
No, I mean, aside from, there are send-off and welcome home parties, which I don't know if I'd call it a program by any stretch, but there's general programs that the community center is involved in, but nothing specific.
I just don't.
But someone with a disability period would be available to be part of those programs.
Okay, we've got a couple of questions here on video gambling. One of them is very detailed in 3 parts, and the other one is similar, but this question differs slightly than the other ones. So I'm going to start with these 3 and then follow up with the last one. It seems like it would be an appropriate order. By more than 2 to 1, Forest Park voters rejected video gambling in a 2013 non-binding referendum. Do you pledge to follow the recommendations of the Forest Park voters to maintain the ban on video gambling? Yes or no? Do you pledge to honor the results of the 2013 referendum on any future referendum, regardless of that margin of victory? Yes or no? I will tack on the last one, because I think you guys could flow together with all of this. Would you be willing to put another referendum vote on video gambling to the people? So I guess I can repeat them if needed.
Again, it was 2 years ago with the non-binding referendum, the 2 to 1 vote. Again, I wasn't involved in village politics 2 years ago. Again, I believe, just with my philosophy and government experience and my management of the Wheaton Park District, change is not necessarily bad. So I would engage the dialogue again, not just come in there with a broom and sweep it in. We're changing the way things are done. But again, you need that dialogue and that open discussion on what the people want, the constituents, the residents, the business owners. Dialogue is key with that, but ultimately we leave it back up to the voters. In those 2 years, there's a lot more data and statistics about potential revenue opportunities, studies on the pros and cons, and again, with that information and research, using that just to engage in that dialogue again, and let the voters and the citizens decide what they truly want for the community.
If you need me to repeat anything.
I think I got it. I had major problems in 2013 when this went to a referendum. I tried to get a couple of those changed. The biggest one was that the mayor cut off dialogue on it. We had zero education. He had one town hall meeting. It was not a town hall meeting. It was a come talk to the mayor meeting. There was no two-way conversation. No data was presented. And I thought that was a disservice. And then he had scheduled another town hall meeting, cut it off, and went right to referendum. So there was no education before that referendum, which really bothered me. It's a problem we see on big issues, which I think need dialogue. Medical marijuana is another one that was forced through without any dialogue at all. There were residents filling zoning meetings, filling council meetings that never got their questions answered, and it was rammed through without any dialogue. I think dialogue is important. The other problem I have with the referendum, which was a major problem, is it was worded backwards. And when I tried to get the wording proper, our village council wouldn't allow it to be worded properly. It was actually asking the question backwards, which I thought was very misleading. So those two things aside, would I entertain discussion again, or entertain going against the referendum?
okay.
I think there could be a dialogue again. We had no data back then, which was very important. We could go and look at some rural North Dakota town to gather data. Now we have neighbors that we can gather data from in Brookfield and North Riverside and Berwyn. It would give us a much better study when it comes to this discussion. So, am I 100% against it? I think the discussion can actually be had in a format now where we can have a two-way discussion. We can bring in professionals. We can bring in some data from the surrounding towns and get some decent answers. Dan is also correct. We lose out on money. We also lose out on the opportunity for other monies that the state offers. Not just there's a designated portion that goes to the village, and there's other opportunities that we don't even get to have a chance at because we don't have it legalized. That's not whether I'm personally for it or against it. That has nothing to do with it. It's more my point. Talking about that was problems back with the process.
Well, I don't know if you answered the last question about, pardon?
I'll answer that.
Would you be willing to, assuming that there was a dialogue and whatnot, I'm guessing that's what this person is implying, then would you be willing to put up another referendum to let the people decide, to let the people vote?
So you're saying like a binding referendum?
It doesn't say specifically, but there's different requirements for binding and non-binding. So
If it was in then the other problem, there's multiple problems with that referendum. It was at the lowest possible turnout where the vote could be controlled. It was a elementary school board and park district election. Nobody comes out to vote unless they're motivated to vote or voting for their friend that's running for school board. Those are the lowest possible turnouts. That's how you can control an outcome. If it was on a general election or something where we actually had turnout and could have a true poll, I think that would be a possibility, absolutely.
okay. Chris, as long as you have the microphone. Sure. This is a mayor-specific question. How do you describe the office of mayor within a commissioner form of government? And maybe for people that might not understand the nuances of commissioner form, could you just give a slight overview of?
I kind of touched on it earlier.
Yeah.
It's the mayor is just another commissioner. So there's 5 commissioners. The mayor is the commissioner of public affairs. But he does have control of the agenda, and he does control the meetings. And what exactly did you want to know?
How would you describe, how do you see yourself in that role, I guess?
Yeah, I think that the reins need to be pulled back a little. And I don't want to take shots at the mayor since he's not here to defend himself, but I think what we've seen over the years is with time comes the pulling of more power to that position, which power that shouldn't be there. It is a mayoral weak form of government. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And that just means that you're engaging all 5 people that you elected, and they have a voice at the table.
Okay, so weak form as opposed to, explain the nuance, weak form versus.
Is this your question?
No, it's not. I'm just worried that, he's basically a mayor among equals.
Correct.
Isn't it?
Yes. I think our mayor describes himself now as a CEO, and that's not a correct description of the position. Sure, the mayor's office, you can run things through the mayor's office, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that necessarily, but when it comes to decision making, there are, as you said, equals.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I was expecting this question to come. It's a hot question for years now. We haven't had much rain this spring, but flooding has plagued our community for years. What are your plans to remedy flooding?
Yeah, the flooding is in my basement. It's got it numerous times. With that said, I know recently the village commission and the mayor entered into a long-term agreement with Christopher Burke Engineering to look at the flooding issues. At the end of the day, though, there needs to be a plan. There's no plan. The town, it's basically our infrastructure underneath us. We're living above it, and if it's deteriorating, it's going to do no good for anyone above it. So again, there needs to be a plan and implementation, capital funding, capital improvement plans, so we can repair our assets and our infrastructure, so we can operate in a sustainable village with the basic needs and services that every home should have. They're dilapidated, they're falling apart, and again, we need a plan and we need the implementation of that plan, the funding of that plan, and set aside dollars to address the thing head on, and again, follow through and follow up with it.
Hold on before you give up the mic. This is my bad here. There was a second flooding question, essentially similar, but specifically this person is asking how do we catch up or at least get started on flooding problems. And I know you touched on some of that now, just this moment, but I just want to get that out there. If you have anything you want to add.
Again, we need to start with a plan. The Christopher Burke Engineering, that is possibly step one. Again, but we need to find ways to fund it and ultimately put our plan in action. So again, being new, hopefully come April 8th to the Village Commission, I plan to put on those sewer boots and get in there and see what we can do to remedy the situation and ultimately come up with a plan that has objectives and goals and can be implemented.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, Dan, I'm going to echo some of what Dan said because he hit the nail on the head, and that is 16 years as mayor and no plan at all. And that is the most frustrating thing, to sit there at village council meetings and try and talk about getting a plan, at budget meetings, and to try and talk about getting a plan together and just not even having a return conversation is very frustrating. We've had neighbors that have already done that plan. Christopher Burke has come in and laid out, and they have very similar systems. We don't share data with River Forest. We don't share data with Oak Park, which is what we should be doing. I have tried multiple times to get a sewer fund, which is what River Forest has. You have to have skin in the game if you're going to get grant dollars from the state, from the MWRD. You have to have skin in the game. We have zero right now. What I would do immediately is we approved a sales tax increase. I wasn't for the sales tax increase unless it was dedicated as a sewer fund. And I think we should take that 0.5% sales tax, to $1 million a year, depending on how much people spend, but we dedicate that immediately into a sewer fund, and that's how we can start getting grants and matching grants. Now, in the short term, what we don't do either, and what we see surrounding communities embracing, is green solutions. And sometimes, I think a few years ago, 10 years ago, that was a hippie thing or something like that. It's not. It works. There are studies that show it works, and this is an easy short-term solution. Does it cost more? Yes. And what I've always said is that it's easier and cheaper to keep voters happy and pave a couple alleys, which is what we do currently, than to take that alley and make it a green alley where it can actually absorb water. So we need to embrace the green solutions. We need to get a sewer fund in place immediately, and then that's how we start the planning process.
Just a point of clarification, Christopher Burke is the engineering firm that our village uses to do.
In Oak Park, River Forest also uses
yes,
Christopher
all three
Burke.
communities. Thank you. Okay, this it's a pension question. It's kind of detailed here. I'll do my best. The Forest Park Police and firefighters' pension funds together are approximately $20 million underfunded. Okay, I don't know what that is as far as a percentage, so maybe one of you can get on that, but I'm not done yet. The state of Illinois passed a law, or maybe the person who asked the question may know the percentage too. Okay. The state of Illinois passed a law requiring municipalities to be 90% funded in the future. Forest Park is approximately 60% funded. Okay, I should have read the question first. How do you propose to increase the police and fire pension fund?
Yeah, we're roughly 60 to 65% funded across the board. Marty, I assume it's you. Do you have anything to add to the question?
No, that's
Okay.
that's right.
It was right. Okay.
60 on fire and
Yeah.
65 on police.
Yeah. I mean, you have to pay into people are living longer, so there's going to be more people that are in grabbing a pension at this point, and that is you're paying for literally 3 police forces, 3 fire departments, because the retired people are still getting paid, and so on and so on. So you have to think about it like you're having 3 active police forces when it comes to paying them. You have to. That's not going to change, and you're not going to. I think the department is fairly lean right now, both actually. There's not something that comes with laying people off. Yeah, you have to embrace the fact that it is a boondoggle of people living longer, and you have to dedicate the funds to pay for the pensions. You're not going to get out of paying the pensions. There's not going to be some vast law that comes across that says we no longer have to pay pensions. You can work in the future with the unions to restructure those pensions, and I think you'll see something in the next 5 to 10 years across the board where there's a realization that it's not sustainable. But until then, we have to fund those pensions and we have to find the funds to do it. Where do you get the funds? Well, if we had a robust economy in Foursquare, we'd actually have more funds to distribute into certain avenues. So that's part of the plan to increase funds.
Definitely echoing what Chris said here, it's the obligation of the village to fund those pensions. You can't rob Peter to pay Paul in that regards. So again, setting up that obligation and again using those dollars that are allocated to fund those pensions is key.
Well, this is an interesting question. I don't think I've ever come across this one before. Kudos to the question writer. This is to both of you. What key issues would you want to see on the first 2 meeting agendas of the next village council? And I'm assuming that it should be elected.
Meeting agendas. That's a great question, interesting question. The mayor has the privilege of drafting an agenda, so I hopefully I'll have some input from that second meeting for sure. But with that said, how do we engage people is first and foremost. Making these meetings in those council chambers an inviting, welcoming place where people feel welcomed, that they can come, their voice can be heard. We respect and have dialogue pre and post the meeting. The meeting will run, Robert's Rules of Order and so on and so forth with that. But how do we get people back involved, asking the questions, what they want, and how can we produce and provide it for them is key. And again, that's why I want to make a difference. I truly think with my values and my experience, I can make a difference. And it starts with you guys, the people, and what you honestly want from us.
I'm sorry. Is it okay if I? Absolutely. I guess I think from that question, like, is there something that you would want to see first addressed? Is there something that you feel like is a pressing issue? Am I understanding?
Yeah, again, you have the flooding, you have the Altenheim. Those are still a couple plans. But again, first and foremost, how do we start building steering committees? How do we get community engagement? How do we get people to address these bigger problems? These bigger problems might be the wrong word. These bigger issues that are faced in our village. But again, it's not just the 5 elected officials doing it there on their own. How do we get people involved, committee chairs, building these committees, and getting that momentum to solve and make progress within the village?
Well,
No, seriously, I made it. Dan obviously has not been on the council, and he would not be the agenda maker.
Yeah.
which doesn't happen currently. Absolutely. Commissioners now don't have input what could be on the agenda. I think that's definitely, if I was elected, something that if someone had an issue that they thought was important, that there would be an open door for the commissioners to talk about a particular topic if they wanted to move that along. Now, I have a little different insight because I've seen some things that have happened recently, and there would be some immediate action I would take, and that would be voting to dedicate that 0.5% sales tax into a dedicated sewer fund. That would be on the first agenda. We would restructure what we call the capital improvements plan in the last year and dedicate, instead of paving over every square inch of this town, start embracing green solutions. That would absolutely be part of the program. And Dan talked about earlier, how do you get people involved and how do they have a say when they come to these village council meetings? We can rethink the village council meeting a little bit, not in a radical way necessarily, but we don't have an agenda up to usually the Friday before. And as a commissioner, that's very frustrating. And we don't know what's going to be on the agenda. Getting information is very hard. So we know that we have a weekend and a day before a 7 o'clock meeting on Monday to spend researching and talking to village administrators and whatnot. That agenda should be up at least a week in advance. And then we could have a portion when Dan talks about community involvement. Right now there's a comment section at the beginning of the meeting where you come up and say your piece for 2 minutes, no dialogue. And if there's a pressing issue, it's very frustrating. I've seen it numerous times where citizens come and they have that one-way conversation. And unless the mayor wants to engage you, he says, well, I can't talk because the rule is that we can't engage you right now. What we could have is something on the agenda. We could still keep that, but at the end, have a Q&A every time. There's nothing against having a dialogue, especially when there's important topics on the agenda.
Okay, that's good. I see someone has submitted a kind of almost a 5-part question here. So, break it down. I'm going to break it down. There are some things that are related, so I'm going to reverse the orders a little bit. And this is to both of you. So I'm going to ask this question and kind of lead into the high school. The first question would be, what is the proviso machine? Can you define it?
Want to go first this time? I don't know if there's a specific definition of what the proviso machine is. I think it's the known entities would be a group of politicians and mayors that use and abuse the school district and the township for their own benefit. I don't know if I want to get into specifics of who's part of that group. It's readily available online. I don't know if I want to get into the pinpointing that, but that's basically when they say the machine. There's a network that of mayors and other politicians that pull some of the strings throughout the school district and the township. Some would say our mayor's part of that.
Yeah, Chris hit that. Sorry. Chris hit that. Again, you can find, who's part of the machine per se, but at the end of the day, it's control. It's counting the votes and having control and getting your agenda through what they want to push through and have the control. With that said.
Okay, well, that's going to take us into the high school. And we've got one of them says Chris specific, but let's start with the first one. No, we'll go with this. Once I ask him, hopefully it'll be evident. Chris, your literature says you'd like to create an option for the high school. Do you need to create a new high school? Please clarify and outline the plan.
Sure. I believe I said, I shouldn't be saying, is all options are on the table. I have not given up on 209 in the sense that the couple friends that I have running, I think, are fantastic and would be great additions to the school board, and that is Ned Wagner, Claudia Medina, and some of the call members that are part of their group. Teresa Kelly, who is a city board member now. I think their mission is to take on what someone may have called the proviso machine a bit earlier, and take that part out of the school district and get it back to thinking about the kids. And the other parts, when I say all options are on the table, I've reached out to surrounding school districts, OPRF, Riverside, Brookfield, to talk about if they would entertain a voucher program for our kids. A Riverside Brookfield wouldn't even entertain the subject. OPRF, we had a conversation about it. Not going to happen. They were pretty adamant about it not happening. I think that has to be on the table. I think the problem is, and I get the third part of this, I've been working with Montessori Creative about the prospects of a charter school. I don't like to talk about it because I think it gets people's hopes up and you can't be promising something, but I think you should always be working. You should always be aggressively pursuing any options. If it means that we don't have to lose these great families that move into town, like a Connie Brown, at Brown Cow Ice Cream. Her family, she's a pillar of the community. I don't know if anyone knows her personally. Full of energy, completely involved, scouts and everything else. She is leaving Forest Park as her kid, she can't send her kid to Proviso East. And we can't let that happen. So yeah, all options are on the table. I would keep pursuing all options to make sure we don't lose those families, because that's how you build a community.
Yeah, now I'm going to evolve the question, and it may or may not necessarily need to go back to you. How do you, each of you propose to get, assuming that you stick with the 209 as it is, I guess is what they want to say, how do you propose that we get residents to recommit to the high school?
Again, the high schools, I've lived in this town for 37 years. High schools were what they are today, what they were back 25 years ago when it was my turn to go to high school. Again, saw many family and friends growing up. Many friends that left after 8th grade to move out west to go to different high schools. My parents and a lot of our other friends that stuck around, their families made great sacrifices to send their kids to private schools. So again, I'm here. I've chosen to stay in Forest Park. I truly love this community. I have 3 small children that are currently in District 91 schools. They're growing up, and it's kind of deja vu, where we're going to have that same decision to make in a few years as they're growing and they're growing fast, of sacrifices to make, or 209. I commend and truly respect Claudia and Ed for taking on this challenge on. And again, as elected official, hopefully can do anything I can in our power to aid them in their mission and vision for 209. Again, I love Forest Park. We pay a lot of money for our high school that a lot of people, if anyone, are using. So that's a shame. And again, we're planning now for any sacrifice we have to make in regards to the future of our children.
Do you want anything to that about recommitting, or
About committing, about getting families to commit.
to recommit?
Well, I mean, it has to be an option first. Like Dan said, with small children, you have to start planning on what you're going to do. You have to start saving money if they're going to go to private school. And we pay a ton into a school district that we just don't use. I mean, at all. And the per pupil rate, we pay the same as what New Trier pays, and we get nothing out of it. And we don't even send our kids to the schools. The rate is atrocious of what we send there because we can't. We don't feel it's an option. So until it becomes an option, and I brought some literature on the Proviso Together group, which is what Dan mentioned, well, Ned, Claudia, Teresa, I encourage you to read up on them. It's a hope. It's not going to be overnight, though. I mean, it's going to take years. And there are going to be people that are going to battle every step of the way, but it's definitely a start.
Okay. I have to keep an eye on the clock. We only get this place for so long. Looks like we've got almost about 5 questions left. I'd like to wrap the questions up in the next 12 minutes, so I'm going to ask you to pick up the pace. I don't think some of these are going to be as necessary detail. For both of you, Chris, you may as well start. What are your ideas to help bring real estate value back to its 2006 price?
Yeah.
Ouch.
Which real estate agent asked them? Well, part of that is market in general. But Forest Park being an attractive place to live, the school district's a huge part of that. you'll have more people, when you take out a whole section of people that won't move to Forest Park because they have kids that are ready to go to high school, if you're selling a home, if I was selling my home right now, I'm literally taking a huge portion of that possible group out. So definitely supporting the school district because that increases all of our property values. I think that's an important part of it. A vibrant community, though, also is an important part of it. I don't think we're marketed properly at all. Actually, I don't think we're marketed at all. We have so much to offer in Forest Park. Where we're at location-wise, access, we're a great commuter town when it comes to having access to 2 CTA lines, CTA bus lines. This is the perfect place to live if you work in downtown Chicago. The access is so easy. We don't market that to young urban professionals. If you look at the age demographics in this town, which we should, this could be a community that embraces those millennials that are out of college. But there's really no avenue for them to live in. And that would bring property values up in general. From where we're looked at right now is kind of just it's either empty nesters or kids who are out of college and don't have a lot of direction, or people that are just, we're not marketed as how we should be marketed. That's a big part of it.
I sure hope they go up. I'm a homeowner in the 500 block of Anna. I was lucky enough to purchase my house when I was 22 years old. And again, I love Forest Park. I was a young professional who loved the big city access and that small town charm. And that's what Forest Park is. And again, we are a great gem. And again, just getting all the community involvement, community foster that spirit, from the young 20-year-olds to first-time home buyers to our senior citizens. It's a great place and it has a lot to offer for everyone and those of all ages.
Okay, let's pick it up a little more if we can. Because I'd like to each have a closing statement, and I would like to allow some time for them to, mingle after the event for those that do want to talk to them. So this should be kind of a slam dunk. Is it normal for the mayor to also be the liquor commissioner? In other towns, how is that done?
I honestly have not done a lot of research on that question, so I would have to.
I think it should be a mayor only.
Lay up that up to Chris. You can dump it.
Yeah, the mayor usually is the leader. It's counted, yeah.
It's state law, yeah.
Say that loud.
It's state law.
State law.
But there is, you can't change that. I don't know if we need to change that necessarily. I know Oak Park was thinking about changing that because their mayor owns a establishment in town that serves liquor, and he wanted to step down and remove himself from those duties.
And they had a tank exist down to Springfield to do it.
Oh. Okay, so it's a big deal. Okay, now I'll come back to that. Since you have the microphone, you're going, I can answer. No, it's okay. All right. Chris, how does your background in marketing support your credentials for mayor? Can you cite an example?
You have to be creative. I'm going to not eat and be able to pay my mortgage, that's for sure. I have to go out there selling myself to get jobs because my company is small where I have to handle a lot of aspects of it. I think there's more to it than that. I have a great background. I managed an apartment for 10 years before that. I was what's called a visual technology development manager, which I didn't know what that meant either. So it means I managed a lot of people and a lot of processes, and I think that's an important part of being a mayor as well. So, I'm not 25. I've only got some experience in different avenues. So I think I have decent credentials to be the mayor.
You may as well hang on to it. I think this has really been touched on in various ways, but I'm going to ask the question specifically. How will you reach out to FP residents for dialogue? And I think we both have brought it up. Can you summarize?
I build on what I've been able to do as commissioner for sure, and being the mayor definitely gives you a bigger megaphone to get that conversation started. Public town halls, and I think we really need to embrace what I've found, at least, the go-to-meeting town halls and the Facebook town halls I held. people love to sit in their jammies and participate from their living room. It makes it a lot easier. So definitely embrace technology when it comes to that as well.
With that, that's the vision and why I'm choosing to run. That vision is engage the residents and business owners, invest in people, ensure their satisfaction, and continually do better. So again, that's my plan and the vision I have, and I think the strengths I carry to bring that to the table.
Okay. These will be the last two questions. One's for both of you, and the last one's for Chris. If the plan is to make the Altenheim property green space, how does that work with the Park District traditionally in charge of green space?
Again, it's collaboration is key for the success of any community. The Park District is its own taxing body, its own governmental agency. But again, anything you do, you can't do without the support of everyone that's, you guys, we're providing the services, the village, the police, the fire, the Park District. The core is the village, the police, the fire. The Park District is a get-to. They have a lot of fun. You choose to go to the Park District. You choose to have fun. You choose to swim in the pool. Everything we provide with the village, those are the get-to, that you have to's with that said. So collaboration is key. The village can own and operate the Altenheim property. It can do some great things there. And working together with the Park District, also not-for-profits, volunteers, for it to be a success, we got to get the whole community spirit and that community behind us.
I think Dan's being a bit modest there. Should talk about what he does in his current profession, because he works in the Park District, and there's a lot of tentacles to the things he does that we don't have as opportunities here in Forest Park. Maybe you can touch on that when I'm done. But as far as right now, all the pocket parks in town are run by the village too. So the running another piece of green space for the village would be uncommon. It has been, I don't know if offered is the right word, but I've had discussions with the Park District about having an intergovernmental agreement to work with them on that. They're not really interested. I think they're focused on the ruse right now and the development of what's going on over there. What I didn't hear, there was a forum a week ago at the middle school, and a lot of people spoke about what could happen over at the Altenheim. What I didn't hear was working with the other bodies. And there was a couple commissioners that have mentioned doing things that are already going to happen at the developed space that's planned for the Ruse property. And you need to work together and definitely have each other's ear. There's no need to replicate services or use green space in the same way that it's already being used.
No, it's, all right. This is the last question for Chris, and I think I hear that.
Any for Dan, just Dan?
No. But
can I come up with a question?
Absolutely. Do this one. But I should point out, though, that I don't think we've ever had the time to get through so many questions. We got everybody. So usually there's stuff left over. We type it up and send it to the candidates and hope that they will answer and send them back. Thanks for you guys being on your mark. Chris, will your name be on the Welcome to Forest Park signs if you're elected mayor?
All the signs? On every form of communication that comes from the village? No, there would definitely be I have talked about this before, a we mentality. I shouldn't say we all. Do you get the village constant contact emails? It's always I. It should be a we mentality at Village Hall. I think that if elected going forward, that's what we'd see a bit more.
Good answer.
I just want to personally thank you guys all for coming out tonight. It was nice seeing some familiar faces, some new ones as well. I'll stick around to have some future dialogue with you. if you so choose. I'm in this for the right reasons. I want to give back to the village that raised me. I can't do it alone. I have a great network of friends and family who are supportive. Again, community service is all we know. We want to get back and produce, provide, and positively impact. I am running independently. I vouch to remain your independent choice and independent voice over the next 4 years. I do have government municipal experience, bringing a lot of strengths to the table. I'm definitely a team player and look forward to working with people and again having that we mentality to get things done. As your independent choice, I'm running against a slate of 4. So it's an uphill challenge. So on April 7th, I'm asking you to vote for Dan Novak and vote for only those you truly believe in and can trust. Again, every vote counts. So again, please vote for Dan and those you can trust, and you can count on me, and I look forward to providing service and again, making a difference in this town I truly love.
Is there any more questions? I'll punt on this and take one more question. I feel like I said everything in my opening speech anyway. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, since you've been involved already, you had talked about, I think it was maybe on the website that you have, bringing back Summerfest and the fireworks. Why were they canceled, and why bring it back?
Both of them were security issues. That was the failure on both of those. And you'll hear that is the village the one that puts on Summerfest. No, but they work greatly with the chamber to get it done. It can't be done without the village. Same with the fireworks. The park district puts the fireworks on. The village ends up helping fund that, or for many years helped fund that, I should say, with contributions via the vehicle tax, volunteer, I should say, funds. And it really, both of them came down to security issues, and I think we just gave up way too quickly on it. I think those are great family events. I think Summerfest was a fantastic family event. And what we didn't do was try and have a solution. When the word came in that it was going to be canceled, I went to the village hall and said, why don't we sit down in a room and figure out how we can keep it? And there wasn't even a discussion about that. And we're going to let it die down and calm down. I don't want to give up on the community I love. I don't think anyone should have to. And have those great events where you get to see your neighbors and see people maybe you haven't seen in a while. And the same with the fireworks. There's ways to control it. There's absolutely ways to control it. Keep admission to Forest Park residents. A simple orange fence that we all see around certain events, and some extra auxiliary police to keep track of that. Bring in fireworks maybe a bit bigger. Maybe it requires some extra security from an outside source, but there's outside security firms that will come in and handle that. We just kind of punted on that, and to me, I was disappointed. And in the village I live in, that we just gave up on 2 great events.
Can I ask just a tail on that thing? So who was providing the security for the fireworks until now? It wasn't outside security people?
The village with other police departments, we brought in different aspects of different police departments. At one point, Murray can answer that, but there was up to a dozen different police forces that were part of it.
We brought in the wedge and other collaborators.
Yeah, it was
15 police departments.
But who paid for it?
well, we paid for it, but you're paying for village events. So, those are you can talk about is it worth it in the long run.
That wasn't the question. It is the village paying for it. So whether it's coming from Forest Park police officers or hired for the evening police officers, it's still Forest Park paying.
Well, there's professional organizations that put on events. When Lollapalooza comes into Chicago, that event is, you work with the police, but it's mostly an independently run event. And that's a huge event. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of people. To think that we can't hold an event where there's thousands of people showing up, to me, is just giving up. So quick statement. What I said at the beginning is the same thing. I ran 4 years ago for the same reasons. I saw the promises actually 8 years ago of the mayor were the same. We had a great candidate 4 years ago for mayor that I supported greatly, happens to be sitting in the audience. And I think that's happened again. There's nothing that's happening progressive in the village right now, and on the council I see that. And I'd love to be able to step up and be your next mayor, and on April 7th, I'd appreciate your consideration.